Okay, in this lesson here, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at how we can go about enhancing our workflow while working with Unrealscript. The whole idea is to basically knock out a couple of steps, make the scripting process itself a lot more pleasant. As a matter of fact, we'll even get rid of having to go into the command prompt and working any from there. Right, Logan?
That's right.
Okay, so starting out, a quick review. If you remember, things that were required is, of course, we've got to go in there and make our own package folder and then all of the appropriate subfolders and populate them with the proper content. After doing that, you've got to go and modify the ini file and add your own edit packages in there. And that's where our first problem comes in. It's not so much a problem, but with slower computers and all, basically you've got the compiler going through and looking for all of those .us, and that's not necessary, is it, Logan?
Right, depending on what type of mod you're doing, your mod might not be dependent on a lot of those packages.
So we can cut those out in our little workflow enhancement section here just to kind of speed things up every time you go through and compile. I mean, you may be running on a slow computer, who knows? The next thing is, after, of course, you've compiled everything into a new .u file, you go into Unreal Tournament, you test it out, you're happy, or maybe you're not happy, but whatever the case is, you need to go and make some changes back in your script. You have to remember to go in there up under the system folder and delete out that .u file. Otherwise, the next time you go through and compile, you're going to run into a bit of a problem. It's not really a problem in the fact that nothing's actually going to happen because it's not going to recompile it. And why I say it's a problem is for the simple fact that if you weren't really paying attention and you think that it was compiled, does that make sense, Logan?
Right. Basically, if you're testing and recompiling over and over again, you might get into the habit of just running UCC make over and over again. And if you forget to delete the file once, then you're not going to recompile it.
And then you get in there and you're like, okay, I made one little tweak, and you get in there and it didn't really recompile, but you didn't notice, and you get into the game and you're like, hey, that's a little bit better, but let's add a little bit more. Then you go back over and you add a little bit more, and you compile again, you jump back in the game, you're like, hey, that's getting a little better. But actually, is it changing at all?
No,
it's an illusion. It's not changing. So what we want to do is take a look at how we could go about creating a batch file that would simplify this whole process. And then we're going to introduce you to context. We've been using it throughout this entire VTM. We're going to show you where to go and download it from. Basically, it's just a text editor, but it's a text editor that has some cool capabilities. And we're going to show you how we can take context and tie it in with our batch file so we no longer have to go out to a command prompt. We can work from right here inside of context.
That's right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and first start out inside our UT 2003 system folder, and let's first make a copy of our UT 2003 ini file. So I'm just going to right-click on it here, come down, do a copy, and then paste. Could have done a Control-C, Control-V. Doesn't matter. Now let's go ahead and rename this. So UT 2003 underscore make.ini. Sounds good to me. And I've got the concussion rifle still up in context from the last lesson. I'll leave that up, and we'll pretend that's the one we're working on here. So let me just go ahead and come in here, and we'll just open this up. And I'm going to do a quick Control F and look for Edit P. So we're going to come down here to the Edit Packages section. And I'm going to start deleting out a lot of these packages. But I'm still going to leave at least, let's see, in this case here, I'm going to leave at least one behind, X Weapons. And Logan, you want to talk about why?
Well, we're extending something from X Weapons. We're extending the shock rifle. So that means that if we're recompiling the concussion rifle, it's dependent on the X Weapons package.
That's right. So we need to make sure we have X Weapons in there. Otherwise, if you take that out and you leave just concussion rifle, even though that is the only thing that we're compiling, we'll still get ourselves an error.
Right, it'll say it won't be able to find the superclass shock rifle.
Exactly.
Because that X Weapons package isn't there anymore.
That's right. So now that we've got everything set up here in our new underscore make.ini file, only 2 edit packages. It's going to be a whole lot faster for UCC make when we run through. We're not having to look for all of those different packages to be out there. It's a lot faster. So it's an enhancement. So we've made that adjustment. So the next thing we want to do, let's go ahead and make ourselves a batch file. For those of you that may not remember the old incredible days of DOS, basically a batch file is a type of executable file that can basically run just system commands, if you will, if we want to like make folders, delete folders, etc., etc. And it does have the ability to take in variables as well, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and show you how we go about doing this. I'm just going to simply right-click, come down here to New, and let's just go ahead and do a new text file, and we'll call this, how about just make.bat. That's simple enough. Okay, and yeah, we'll let the extension change. And I'll go ahead and right-click, and let's go ahead and come into Edit. So we're now inside of Notepad editing make.bat. And what we want to do is first, think about this. This file exists inside the system folder. So it's in the same folder where our .u file is going to be, the one that gets compiled every time, the concussion rifle in this particular case. So what we want to do is go ahead and delete that out automatically. So we'll do that by simply coming down here and telling it del. But watch this. I don't want to go in there and type in concussion rifle .u, because I'd like for this thing to be flexible. I'd like for it to be able to work with whatever I want to make. So I want to basically be able to say, or type in make space and then give it some particular name. So let's say make %, that's a % sign, trust me on that, 1, okay, .u. That %1 is going to take in the first thing in a command prompt when we actually call this batch file. When we say %1, it'll receive, if we do make space concussion rifle, that concussion rifle will go into this variable right here, %1, and we'll have .u appended to the end of it. So it'll be concussion rifle.u. So this command right here, this line, will actually delete that file out.
So that way we can reuse this batch file for any package we're trying to rebuild.
Absolutely. So that's what it's all about, baby. Efficiency. Okay, so the next line, what we want to do is go ahead and say UCC make, but we're going to make this line a little bit fancier this time around. As opposed to just saying UCC make, by default, this is going to use the UT2003.ini file. We want to specify our own. And so we can do another space, -ini equals UT 2003 underscore make dot ini. Okay? And just looking back over here, UT 2003 underscore make dot ini. Very nice. So now this will just simply delete out the file. This will then redo, okay, basically recompile using our own ini file where we've specified what packages are going to be involved.
That way we keep the actual UT 2003 ini file intact for whatever else may be using it, and have our own copy just for rebuilding our certain project.
Absolutely. Another thing is, of course, these two lines are going to get echoed out, and we can suppress that if we wanted to. We could simply come in here and put the @ symbols at the beginning. Not hit all those keys like that. There we go. Or you could just go up here. A lot of you may remember the @echo off days. Okay, and the @ symbol before echo off is just so that that's suppressed. Okay, it's done in silence. So this right here is going to take care of business for us in regards to making life a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and experiment with it a little bit. Let's go ahead and save this, and we can jump out real quick. And let's go ahead and come in here and run. There we go. And we'll hop on over to D drive real quick and change directories to UT2003 \system. And now let's try it out. Make. Oh, let's see. Could not find. Not a problem, but look what's happening. .u. You got to make sure to specify what it is you want to make. What I wanted to show you, though, is that what's going to happen when you type in make, if the name is wrong or you leave it off, it's not going to completely kill out. It's not going to be like a syntax error in the story. It's going to continue executing. As you can see, we got the could not find here, but down below that it did indeed still run UCC make.
Right, because the actual package that UCC is going to be looking for is specified in that ini file.
That's right.
In this case, the UT2000 make ini file, because we told it to by using -ini equals that special make ini file.
That's right, and it's very important that I show you this for the simple fact that you need to understand that the very first time you use your new make utility here, if you've not compiled your new package, that .u file is not going to exist. So you're going to see this warning right here.
The difference is it would say it can't find the file, but then it would actually go ahead and compile it because it wouldn't exist.
Absolutely. It would, again, so, I mean, it would still run this.
It just warn that it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Basically, it's still going to run the UCC make, meaning it will compile it, and then you would have the .u file existing. So now let's go ahead and run this thing properly. Make space and concussion rifle. And here we go. Deletes it out. Look at that. This time we didn't get anything up here because, remember, it's all nice and quietly done. And then we get concussion rifle, analyzing, parsing, boom, boom, boom. Remember everything that we saw from the last lesson. Come down here.
Except a lot faster.
Except a lot faster, absolutely. And 0 errors, 0 warnings. Now, remember, if I was running UCC make and I run it again right now, that it would just go through and basically do just like it did up here, show this line and show this line, because it's not going to recompile. But in this case here, I should be able to run make concussion rifle again, and I should see all of this stuff again, because the very first thing make is going to do is go in there and delete out that batch file. So I'll simply hit enter, And look at that. Isn't that beautiful, Logan?
So now if you're working in and making lots of small changes over and over again, you can just keep retyping make concussion rifle. You don't have to worry about deleting anything. It takes care of that for you.
Absolutely. Now, as our final step, if you will, in this particular lesson, what I want to do is get us away from having to use the command prompt at all. Let's keep us inside a Windows environment. So let's just go ahead and exit out of here. We don't need to go back into that anymore. And let us open up a browser. All right, you've seen that we've been working inside a text editor called Context throughout this VTM. And that's the whole idea. We talked about at the very beginning that there's two different ways that you can go about working with Unrealscript, whether inside of Unreal Ed or you could use your favorite text editor. Right, Logan?
Right. I mean, Notepad if you have absolutely nothing else, but I'd highly recommend Context. It's a very flexible and powerful text editor.
It's extremely flexible, very powerful, and what I'm going to show you in just a second is just going to be absolutely cool. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, hey, let me get that because it's going to speed things up. Context is really cool. All you need to do is come over here to http://fixed, so fixedsys.com.
Like the font.
Do what now?
Like fix this font.
Yeah, fixthis.com/context/. Okay? And then just come in, download, and install, and you're ready to go. So once you've got it installed, we can just jump over here. Ta-da! There's Context. And you can see that we've already got some files open from the last lesson. What I want to do now is introduce you to something really cool. What do we want to introduce them to, Logan?
Well, Context has the ability to execute a command based on what file type you're working and what key you hit.
That's right. So if I was to come up here to maybe options and come down to environment options and come over here to execute keys, what I'm going to do is add a new extension, UC, not .UC, just UC. Click OK. Now, I have the ability, while working with a UC file, of course these are all UC files up here, if I hit F9, F10, F11, and F12, I can assign each of them to execute something different in the system if I wanted to. And if I wanted to, let's say while I'm working with .bat files, if I wanted F9, 10, 11, 12, I could have them do something completely different by coming in here and adding a new exec key. Let's go ahead and leave this on .UC, and I'm going to come down here to F9, and what we want to do is come in here, and basically when we hit F9, we want to execute our new make bat file.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll come over here, and execute is going to be make.bat.
That's good.
Start in, well, we'll say D drive or D : UT2003 / and system. And parameters. Now, parameters is where you're going to need to go ahead and type in your package folder name. Right now, if you remember, all of our files that we're dealing with may not necessarily be the package folder name. You may be, working inside of concussion rifle fire or something, or concussion rifle pickup. What we're going to want to do is come in here and put concussion rifle because that is our package name. That's what it's going to need. That's the parameter that's going to be fed to make.bat. So that's what's going to go in on %1 and inside that batch file and do its little thing.
Right, and that's how it'll know what to delete.
Concussion.
So really, if you were working with different packages through Context, now we've got this set up. Say you're working on concussion rifle. Now you decide to work on a totally new package that's all your own. Two things you'd have to do is change this parameter so it knows what file to keep deleting when it rebuilds, and in that modified make any file, you'd also have to put your package in the edit packages, of course.
Absolutely.
So now it's in those two places where we have to update what package you're currently working on.
Right. Okay, so now a couple more things. Watch this. I want to capture my console output. That's interesting. And I want to scroll the console to the last line. Okay? So with everything set up here, what we're going to do is simply just tell it, OK. Now, watch this. This is where things are going to get really cool. I'm going to come up here to View, and I'm going to come down to the console output, or I could have just done a Shift-Control-O. Ooh. Now watch this. I'm up here working. I've made some adjustments. Shock rifle with 2 R's or whatever. And now I hit F9. Of course, I know there's a problem in there. And it tells me that finishing executing. But look at this. It just ran over here. Let's go and click OK on that. Now, I did this on purpose so that we introduce an error so that we can see it with an error and then fixed. But look down here. We got the output that we got from, when it was working back over in a command prompt. We got that output here inside of context.
So you got it right there, right, as you can be working on the code. So say if there was an error on some line, the compiler is actually really good about telling you where the errors are.
Yeah.
So right there you've got in the window below that, so you know exactly where to go and hunt down the error. It's a lot closer. You don't have to keep switching between windows.
Yeah, it's just so cool. So here we go. Basically, in this case, analyzing, and then we can see superclass shock R rifle of class combustion or concussion rifle not found. So, okay, well, let's see. We exiting due to an error. Execution finished. Oh, gee, let's go up here and fix. Tink and F9. And now let's see what we get. Look at that. Analyzing, parsing, success. 0 errors, 0 warnings. Now, at this point, I would say we've made context very Unrealscript friendly, wouldn't you say?
Right, because now, not only do you not have to hit the up arrow key to rerun the command, you can just type, hit F9, and see what the compiling results are. Hit F9 again, recompile again.
Yeah, because it's automatically going to save. You do have, if we were to come back in here real quick, and let's jump back over to execute keys, come back to F9, you do have up under save the ability to say, and by default this is how it's set up, current file, save the current file before execution. That's what's so nice. Make a couple changes, hit F9, context automatically saves the file, then goes and does everything that you've got set up here for that execute key. Okay.
So it's a lot of commands all in one push of a button.
Yeah, that's right. So with that, that's pretty much going to wrap up this lesson here. Just a really quick recap. Basically what we did is we talked about going in there and basically duplicating the UT2003 INI file so that we could strip out all of the packages that are not necessary for recompile while we're working on a particular project. Then we went a step further and we showed you how we could go ahead and come in here and go about making a BAT file that would simplify or let's say automate some of the things that we need to do redundantly over and over by basically coming in here and deleting out whatever package it is that we've compiled that we're trying to recompile before we actually come down here and use UCC make to recompile it. And then with UCC make we showed you how we could use the INI flag to specify the new INI file that we're going to use that's going to dictate what packages need to be compiled. And then after setting that up, we finally jumped over to fixthis.com. We introduced you to context, showed you where we can go get it, download it once you have it installed. Then we showed you what it looks like. We've been using it already throughout this entire VTM, but we showed you how we could come up here into options, environment options, and come over here to execute keys and assign different function keys, F9, F10, 11, or 12, to certain functionality external to context. In this case here, we took F9, we tied it into our make.bat file, and set everything up. And then I showed you finally the output console down here so that we can actually pull back in everything that UCC make spits out so that you can see it right here inside of context. So definitely, I would say some workflow enhancements. What do you think, Logan?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got everything that you need to work with right in front of you.
Absolutely. So with that, that is going to not only conclude this lesson, but it is also going to include this VTM. Do I know?
Or conclude, not include.
Or conclude. Did I say include?
Yep.
So much, programming here. Must include this, must include that. It's going to conclude this lesson. So with that, thank you all very much. Hope you guys got a lot out of this. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.